Okay, hey y'all. This is part 2 of the chapter 19 Tuck video, and the reason is because the Hicks family strikes again. I was sitting here doing my reading, everything's going good. We just found out that the man in the yellow suit has the intention of doing something with the water. He was looking for the Tuck family in particular. He knows them from stories of his childhood. And my phone rang. And it was Mr. Hicks. And Mr. Hicks was calling me, and because my phone rang, the video cut, which who knew it would do that? So it automatically stops recording when the phone rings, or I don't even know what happens when I get a text or whatever. So this is a new experience for us. Maybe eventually I'm going to become so good at this, like I'm going to be the next big thing in YouTube, that I'm going to be able to take these videos and trim them and slice them and edit them and make them amazing. But right now, all I'm doing is setting my phone on my dining room table. Here's my dining room chair. And I'm sitting here at my dining room table recording. So we'll figure this thing out. Hopefully it doesn't take me 10 videos to end up doing one chapter. But we got this. Okay. So I'm back on page 97. And I'll go to the second paragraph on page 97 that starts, "The man in the yellow suit smiled." So the man in the yellow suit smiled. "The Fosters have given me the wood," he said, "in exchange for bringing Winifred home. I was the only one who knew where she was, you see, so it was a trade." That's what we were talking about. It's not a trade, that's blackmail. "Yes, I followed you, Mrs. Tuck, and then I took your horse and went directly back." The tension in the parlor was immense when he found that she could scarcely breathe. It was true then. Or was the man who stood there crazy too? "Horse thief," cried Tuck. "Get to the point. What are you going to do?" "Oh, it's very simple," said the man in the yellow suit. And as he did this, the smoothness of his face began to loosen a little. A faint flush crept up his neck, and the pitch of his voice lifted. I was going to sneeze. A faint flush crept up his neck, and the pitch of his voice lifted, became a fraction higher. "Like all magnificent things, it's very simple. The wood, and the spring, belong to me now." He patted his breast pocket. "I have a paper here, all signed and legal, to prove it. I'm going to sell the water, you see." Well, who said they were going to sell it? Who said that if they had the Fountain of Youth in their backyard, that it might be worth a fortune and they might just sell it? Because if you said that, you're thinking like the man in the yellow suit. Same thing. His intention is to sell the water. "You can't do that," roared Tuck. "You gotta be out of your mind." The man in the yellow suit frowned. "But I'm not going to sell it to just anybody," he protested. "Only to certain people. People who deserve it. And it will be very, very expensive. But who wouldn't give a fortune to live forever?" "Well, I wouldn't," said Tuck grimly. "Exactly," said the man in the yellow suit. His eyes glowed. "Ignorant people like you should never have the opportunity. It should be kept for certain others, and for me. However, since it's already too late to keep you out, you may as well join me in what I'm going to do. You can show me where the spring is and help me to advertise. We'll set up demonstrations. You know, things that would be fatal to anybody else but won't affect you in the least. I'll pay for your assistance, of course. It won't take long for the word to spread. And then you can go your way. Well, what do you say?" Okay, so let me explain to you what the man in the yellow suit is proposing. Because in the late 1700s, even 1800s, there's no radio, there's no television to be able to advertise for things that are for sale. So what people would do is they would go from one town to the next, and they would set up demonstrations. So kind of think of it like they would have a food truck, and they would go to the town and they would set up their food truck, And people would go to the food truck to get whatever they wanted to eat, except this time they have like these wagons, and they would go into the town and they would set up their wagon and they would have these demonstrations, and whatever they would be selling, they would have it out for everyone to see. And if they were selling something like a medicine or whatever, they would have somebody drink it so that they could show that the medicine worked, somebody would get better or whatever. And that was the way that they would sell things. They would go from town to town with their wagons, with their horses, and they would advertise in person. That's what they had to do. So what the man in the yellow suit is proposing is to take Miles, Jesse, May, and Tuck on his wagon with him with the water and go from town to town trying to sell the water to only the most select people. Which, who's selecting the people? Yeah, the man in the yellow suit. So he is taking it upon himself to say who gets it and who doesn't. And obviously you have to have enough money to be able to buy it. But in order for him to show that the water actually works, he plans on using the Tuck family and doing something to them that would be fatal to anyone else to show that the water does have you living forever. So whether it would be falling or getting cut or getting shot like before, earlier in the chapters, this would not be fatal to them. They would live through it. So that would be the proof that everyone else would need to pay the money to buy the water that came from the spring. So how do you think the Tucks are going to take this? Do you think that this is going to be something that they want to do? Do you think they're going to support the man in the yellow suit on his mission to sell this water only to certain people? I mean, he is offering to pay them. Would you do it? Think about that. Well, let's find out what happens. Well, what do you say? Says the man in the yellow suit. Jesse said dully, freaks. You want us to be freaks in a patent medicine show. The man in the yellow suit raised his eyebrows and a nervous petulance came to his voice. Of course, if the idea doesn't appeal to you, he said, blinking rapidly, you needn't be in on it. I can find the spring and manage just as well without you. But it seemed the gentlemanly thing to make the offer after all, he added, looking around at the cluttered room. It would mean you could afford to live like people again, instead of like pigs. And that was when the tension burst. All four Tucks sprang to their feet at once, while Winnie, very frightened, shrank back in her chair. Tuck cried, you're a madman, a loony. You can't let no one know about that water. Don't you see what would happen? I've given you your chance, shrilled the man in the yellow suit, and you've refused it. He seized Winnie roughly by the arm and dragged her up out of her chair. I'll take the child and be on about my business. Ooh. He got rough with her. So here you have the Tucks who actually kidnapped her and kidnapped her in the sweetest way that they possibly could and did absolutely no harm to her. Felt bad that they were kidnapping her. Just wanted to make her understand. Then you have the man in the yellow suit who's supposed to be her savior, who's supposed to be the person that's going to come and find her and take her back to her family. And he's the one that's being rough. He grabs a hold of her by her arm and he pulls her, drags her out of the chair. Well, the Tucks already have a fondness to her. They like her. So seeing this is going to put them even more over the edge. Tuck began to rave now, his face stretched with horror. Madman, he shouted. And Miles and Jesse began to shout too. They crowded after as the man in the yellow suit dragged Winnie through the kitchen to the door. No, she was screaming, for now at last she hated him. I won't go with you, I won't. But he opened the door and pushed her out in front of him. What? Pushed her out. Not being gentle at all. His eyes were like blind fire points. His face was twisted. Then the shouting behind them stopped abruptly. And in the midst of the sudden silence came May's voice, flat and cold. You leave that child be, she said. Winnie stared. May was standing just outside the doorway. She held Tuck's long-forgotten shotgun by the barrel like a club. Okay, so let me make sure you have an understanding of what's going on right now. The man in the yellow suit has come to the Tuck house knowing fully what the spring does. Not where it is, but what it does. He also knows the whole story, and he actually knew of the Tucks before he ever even heard their story. And he gets to the house, he explains his background story. So he's giving us his backstory as far as him growing up and hearing these stories from his grandmother and his mother. He offers them to come along and advertise. They don't want anything to do with that. They don't even want people knowing about the spring. They're trying to protect it. Then he grabs Winnie, and it's kind of like, that's it. Enough is enough. Tuck is now upset. May is upset. Everybody's upset. He pushes Winnie out to the door of the Tuck house, and then everything goes quiet because May says, leave the child be, and she's not messing around. She is going into grandma mode. She's going into protection mode. She grabs the shotgun by the barrel. So this would be the part of the gun where like the bullet would come out of a shotgun. So it's the long metal part, not the stock. Remember we talked about the stock and the barrel of a gun with a different story. I can't remember which one. But the stock of the gun, the part that would go up against his shoulder, is the part that's actually sticking out. So she's holding the barrel and the stock of the gun is out. So it's almost as if she's holding a baseball bat. But she's using the shotgun kind of like a baseball bat. Okay, so the intention is not to shoot the man in the yellow suit unless she just is holding it backwards because she has no idea what she's doing. But the way that she's holding the gun does not seem like she has the intention to shoot him. She held Tuck's long-forgotten shotgun by the barrel like a club. The man in the yellow suit smiled, a ghastly smile. I can't think why you're so upset. Did you really believe you could keep the water for yourselves? Your selfishness is really quite extraordinary. And worse than that, you're stupid. You could have done what I'm doing long ago. Now it's too late. Once Winifred drinks some of the water, she'll do just as well for my demonstrations, even better. Children are so much more appealing anyway. So you may as well relax. There's nothing you can do to stop me. So he's going to use Winnie. If the Tucks don't help him, he's going to force Winnie to drink the water. And then he's going to take her on his demonstrations and do things that would be fatal to her. Well, fatal to anybody else, but won't be fatal to her because he would have forced her to drink the water. So he's taking her decision away from her. Ooh. So not only would he have gone back on taking Winnie home, but he would have made her drink the water without it being her choice. And he's going to then kidnap her and take her on his demonstrations. Ooh, this bad guy. There's nothing you can do to stop me. But he was wrong. May lifted the shotgun. Behind her, Miles gasped, "Ma, no!" But May's face went dark red. "Not Winnie," she said between clenched teeth. "You ain't gonna do a thing like that to Winnie. And you ain't gonna give out the secret." Her strong arms swung the shotgun around her head like a wheel. The man in the yellow suit jerked away, but it was too late. With a dull cracking sound, the stock of the shotgun smashed into the back of his skull. He dropped like a tree, his face surprised, his eyes wide open. And at that very moment, riding through the pine trees just in time to see it all, came the Tree Gap Constable. Oh my. Oh my. Okay, well, that's the end of chapter 19. I wish I could see you guys right now because I can't even imagine what your faces look like. She smacked him in the back of the head with the stock of the gun, and he just crumbled onto the ground. So he said, "There's nothing you can do to stop me." May just did something to stop him. But Good grief, you guys. The constable saw it. The constable, the police officer, the sheriff, he saw it. So now what? I'll see you tomorrow. Hugs and kisses.